I do a lot of consultations with people, mostly to figure out if this particular boat is right for their dream. Is it worth the money? Can it be negotiated down a little bit? And a constant topic that comes up during these consultations, we are going to talk about today. And these consultations are not cheap, by the way. I charge $500 an hour for them. So you're getting a very good value by watching this 12-minute video or whatever it's going to be at the end. So today, I'm going to tell you guys how to buy a boat at the best price for you, and moreover, how to tell when a boat isn't worth it at any price. Most people buy a used sailboat like they're buying a truck. They look at the paint, they start the engine, make sure it runs, they lay down on the cushions, they make sure everything's pretty inside, and hand over their cash. Hey, this is great. And that is the best way to go broke. A boat is not a car. If your alternator dies in the middle of the road, you can pull over, call a tow truck, good to go. If your boat breaks down 100 miles from land, you are properly screwed. After 24 years on the water, that is 5 on submarines and 19 on sailboats, I can tell you that a boat is not like a car. It's more like a plane, but you need to think of it as 30 or 40 different systems. And all those systems, you need to figure out how long that system is supposed to last, how long that system's been on the boat that you're trying to buy, and what it's going to cost you in terms of time and money to replace that system. And if you can do that, you can buy any boat in the world. You can figure out the value of any boat in the world. Let's go over how. Here's the biggest fallacy with buying a sailboat. It's called the interior trap. You go to look at a boat and you walk straight inside the boat. You want to see what the living conditions are like. And you completely negate the entire exterior of the boat. That's the part that has all the UV damage and has all the rebedding problems and all the lines that are stiff, because the interior looked so dang good. That perfect interior blinds you of the real problems. This is where the leaks start and where the teak is thinning, and where every single deck fitting is a ticking time bomb that needs to be rebedded before you have torrential water inside your boat. If you let that shiny cabin blind you to a soft deck, you are now inheriting 100% of the previous owner's deferred maintenance. Okay, so let's do a little bit deeper dive and get into the forensic audit of a sailboat. How do you go about this? We're not looking at features here. We're looking at lifespans. When you look at a boat, you need to figure out how many systems it has. Write them all down. It's got the fridge system and the freshwater system and the saltwater system, the standing rigging, the running rigging, the engine, the batteries. Write every single thing down that you can even think of. And then you need to figure out what is the lifespan of the type of system that you have on this boat. So if you have a fridge boat fridge, if you have an isotherm or a Dometic, you need to figure out what is the average lifespan of that exact system on that exact boat, and then how long has it been on that boat and what it's going to cost me to replace. So for instance, fridge boat would be 10 to 15 years. Technotics is a 20-year plus fridge. An isotherm usually lasts around 10 years, plus or minus 2. You need to do this research. And then you move on to the other systems, like standing rigging. My rigger, Mr. Chris Catterton, link below, tells me that standing rigging lasts about 16 years. Depending on your insurance company, you may need to replace it sooner, but if it's older than 16 years, it needs to be replaced. And if you're inheriting that boat when the standing rigging was changed 10 years ago, then in 6 years, you're going to have a $20,000 bill that comes due during your tenure of this boat. You have to factor that in and amortize that out. How about the engine? Now, there's a lot of information online that says that engines are supposed to last 6,000 to 9,000 hours. In a sailboat, I don't think I've ever seen an engine, even a Yanmar, that lasted 9,000 hours. Anything over 4,500 hours is suspect in my book. It's just part of being in that caustic environment. Every time the boat goes out to sea and hits a wave, all that spray comes up and it comes in the cabin and the engine sucks it in. And in that caustic environment, it just doesn't last as long as the maximum amount of time the manufacturer says it may. And then you got to think about what type of engine you have. If you have a Volvo Penta that's made up of a cast iron block with an aluminum head, those things are not going to last as long as a tractor engine. You guys know I'm partial to that. I like the Perkins and I like the Betas and I like the Luggers and I like the Yanmars of the world because they're all one type of metal. They're all made for this environment. Like it or not, they're going to last longer. Now let's talk about the electronics. The electronics on your boat are just like your iPhone. After a couple years, you can still use them. After 5 years, they're basically obsolete. The company that makes them is not going to support them anymore. None of the charts are going to work on it anymore, especially if they're more than 10 years old. They're done. As a little tangent here, electronics don't add a lot of value to the boat. So if you go and you buy a boat and you spend $50,000 on electronics, you don't have a boat that's worth $50,000 more. Usually it's just a little bit. It matters to some people, mostly new buyers, if it has all shiny new stuff on it. But in all actuality, this is one of the worst places to put your money as far as a resale goes. How about the water maker? Water makers usually last between 10 and 20 years. It depends on what kind of water maker you get. Neglect is the number one killer of water makers, and it's the membranes that go bad. If you had an owner that religiously pickles his water maker with potassium metabosulfite every time he leaves it more than a week, those membranes and those systems inside that water maker are going to last a long time. If you have an owner that leaves the water maker with salt water inside it and doesn't ever flush it, it's going to be a problem long term for that piece of gear. Also, you need to see what kind of pump your system has. Is it a repurposed pressure washer pump? Is it AC? Is it DC? What exactly are you working with here, and what's the lifespan of that exact pump? Now we come to one of my favorites, the through hulls. Just because you have all bronze, beautiful through hulls inside your boat doesn't mean they don't have a lifespan. The sea will actually leach the zinc out of those through hulls, and while they may look perfect to you, if you scrape them a little bit and they turn pink, it means that those through hulls don't have any strength left. You can literally break those off in your hands. And that is super dangerous. So if you have a boat that's 40 years old that has all bronze through hulls, you probably need to change those out. That's going to be a significant expense, especially if you have through hulls that are glassed in or you don't know how to change them yourself. If you pay a yard to do that work and you have 15 through hulls below the waterline, you're looking at $10,000 in work there. And then let's talk about the hoses that are attached to those through hulls. If those are also 40 years old, it is time to change those hoses. Hoses get brittle over time. So if you are buying a boat that has never had any of those things changed and the interior is in mint condition and no one's ever used the boat, but it's been sitting for 40 years, you are going to inherit having to do all of that work. And that's just one system, the hoses and the through hulls. Think about all of the different things in the entire boat. Most of that stuff needs to be replaced. Okay, let's talk about the market comps. So comps is comparisons. That's what the broker uses to say, okay, look, this is what these boats have been selling for the last 10 years, this one and this one and this one. They even get the actual ad for the boat so they can see what kind of gear it has, how it presented, what kind of pictures were in it, if they had added an arch with renewable energy or not, or new sails. And all that information is available on the back end, kind of like an MLS with houses on the back end of Yacht World for brokers, which is why Yacht World charges so much for their subscription to brokers. If you can get a copy of those comps, you can make your own determination of where your specific boat is at as far as, is it worth what other boats have been selling for? Is it worth less? If I have to do all of this deferred maintenance, am I going to add like a hassle tax? Like, okay, look, this is what the boat is worth. This is what it's going to cost me to bring it up to par. This is how much time it's going to cost me. So I'm going to add a 15% discount onto that because I'm going to have to be the one doing all this work. Like if the boat needs $50K in work, I'm not going to just subtract $50K. I'm going to subtract $50K plus 20% because that's my hassle tax, man. I'm going to have to be the one inheriting your problem. So if you want me to take that on, this is what you're going to have to pay me. On that note, let me tell you about a philosophy that took me years and years of sailing to learn, and now I have completely internalized as gospel. Buy once, cry once. Whenever you buy cheap, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to buy it twice. 8 times out of those 9 times, it's going to have to be the better thing anyway. So you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. Imagine you buy this cheap thing and then you install it. It takes you 20 hours to install it. And then 6 months later, it fails. Now I have to install another one at a higher price, including another 20 hours. You are wasting so much of your time and money trying to go cheap on sailboats. A lot of the gear that is on boats is consumer gear. You don't want the consumer gear. You want the prosumer version. You want the one that the crab boat pilots are using. You want that big, heavy, built to last thing. So whenever you go out to buy something, buy once, cry once, buy the best thing you can. Trust me, it is the way to go if you can afford it. The trick is, and your job as a sailboat buyer is to try to figure out how many systems, every single thing on a boat that you're looking at. And then figure out what the lifespan is of that. And then try to figure out when that system was changed on that boat, on that specific boat you're looking at. And then make another column that's how much is this going to cost me in blank years. The average sailboat owner owns his sailboat between 7 to 10 years. And I would say probably for a cruising boat, it's more like 5 to 7 years. In the next 5 to 10 years, how many things are going to come due to be replaced? And then how much is it going to cost me? And then how much is this thing going to cost me overall? And then what's the depreciation curve on this boat? So when I go to resell it, am I going to lose my shirt on this thing? Or am I going to get it at a price where I can kind of bake in a few of these costs? And if all of that makes sense and you balance that sheet and it works for you, then it's worth it. And then there's that other cost too, where I really, really love the boat. I think I'll pay a little more. I don't mind losing 10% on this thing. You know, there has to be a little bit of that too. You have to love the boat that you buy, but this is how to be super pragmatic about, this is what the numbers say. No matter what your heart is telling you, this is what the numbers say, and this is how to do it. If you'd like more information on how to vet boats, what kinds of boats are good or bad, or what you should be looking for, I wrote a book on the subject. Chapter 2 of my book, Be the Captain, is all about that. I put it in chapter 2 because I feel that this is one of the most important subjects that you can learn as a sailor. What makes a good boat? What makes a good boat offshore? It's all in here. And if you'd like one of the first edition copies with the cowhide cover, there is less than 200 of these left in the world. And I've got a second printing coming, but it's going to be a different cover. So get this first edition while you can. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something today. If you have any questions or you'd like a personal consultation, you can contact me through my website, www.bethecaptain.com. And as always, sail safe, fair winds, much love. See you next time.